Hi everyone, can you hear me? Yeah, good. So welcome to my talk on building a large-scale SEO and SEM application with Apache Solar. So let me introduce me. I'm basically a freelancer. I work on a big data and on search side. I'm based out of Hyderabad, India. So I provide consulting services and solutions on Solar and Elasticsearch. And sorry. And on the other big data solution like Apache Hadoop and Apache Spark. I'm also organizer of two meetup groups in Hyderabad that focuses on Solar and Lucene and on the big data side. So today I'm going to share our experience in working with an application. I work with an application, I work for a startup company as a consultant, and where we have a huge number of records and we need to basically do a search on that, and it should be very fast. So today I'm going to talk about, is this echoing? Okay. So today I'm going to talk about what all issues we have seen and what are the lessons we have learned and like how we do database import, then batch indexing, and what is the tips and techniques we use to scale the search and to improve the search latency. Then we'll also see our the system architecture. Then in later we'll cover some tips for tuning the Solar, and last we'll cover question answer session. So what does our application do? It's basically a keyword research and computer analysis tool, and that is mainly meant for SEO and SEM professionals. So basically they comes to our website and then they type a keyword. They wants to know okay, what that keyword is doing, how well it is doing in Google, which particular position it is coming in that. So such information they get from the portal. Now they also get information about like, okay, for this particular keyword, what is the cost I have to pay if I'm an advertiser or if I'm a publisher, like how much of money I'm going to get. So what we do, we basically aggregate the data that is getting shown in Google. So we crawl Google and Bing, and we also do a web crawling. We crawl multiple websites. Then we also fetch the data from ad networks. So they have published their APIs, and from the APIs we collect this information. And after that, we apply a lot of processing. From this processing, we aggregate the data, and this data we do a lot of processing. It takes almost 10 days to do the processing. Then we store this data into databases, and whenever user make a search, like you can see the dashboard, so they can see okay, like this particular the keyword that is coming to this particular position in Google and how it is happening, and such information they can get. So let me show you our technology stack. So as you can see, we use HA proxy, that is for load balancer, then Redis for cache, MySQL, that is for database. Then our front end is written in PHP. Then we use Nginx, that is a web server. Then we use Solar as a search engine, and then Java is our primary language. Tomcat is our app server. And then for coordination, we use Zookeeper. So we have written something similar to Solar Cloud. We exactly don't use Solar Cloud, and we have written something similar to that. And we use Zookeeper here for coordination. So our high-level architecture look like this. So as you see, we get a wave request. So basically, those hits to load balancer, that is HA proxy, and load balancer forward these requests to web server farm. So like multiple servers are there, and they are basically running a PHP app. And after that, they forward this request to app server that is running on Tomcat. Now, if the request is already served previously, then it goes to cache cluster and it try to check okay, whether this data, is there any result for that particular query already exists in cache cluster. If it is there, then response will be returned back from that. If it is not there, then it will goes to search head. So before going to search head, it hit cluster manager, and from cluster manager, it determines all the Solar server mapping, whatever the mapping available, which all server I need to hit. And then basically these all requests is forwarded to search head. And this search head, what it does, it make a distributed search to all Solar servers, whichever is needed. And from that, it aggregates the data and return it back. Once we have data that's from Solar, basically it goes to PHP app again, and then we do a lookup on database. So that is primarily a ID-based lookup, so it is quite fast. And we also maintain a huge amount of cache in MySQL, and we also have external caching for that. So now coming back to the point, the search head is basically a new thing here. So search head is also a Solr server, but the main thing is it does not contain any data. We use this for two purposes. One is it make a distributed search request, and this distributed search request basically, do the whole aggregation of the search result. That is one thing. And second thing is it basically work as a load balancer. So we have a couple of search head servers, and this search head server basically is the guy who is going to hit the Solr server. So this search they are basically stateless, and we can run in multiple parallelly, multiple servers, and they can be used. So in the next diagrams, we'll see that. So with search, we have, is it working fine? Okay. So with search, we have a lot of key challenges. So one of the key challenges is like we have 40 billion records every month we in MySQL database. So like I was talking, we do a lot of processing. So it's roughly generate around 40 billion records. Now this 40 billion records includes around 80 plus million keywords and 110 million domains, 1 billion plus unique URLs. And the major thing is for each keyword, we have multiple URLs, and they are vice versa. So like there are multiple keywords and multiple URLs, and each is having permutation combination. Now we have multiple tables. So like around we have 20 tables, and they have very varying size. So one table is from 50 million, and another table is 12 billion. So like we have one country data that is having the highest table, that is 12 billion. So the important part is we need to have such an architecture. Like if we have the small number of records, how we can manage that, how we can return a response fast. And if like records is 12 billion in a table, how we need to return fast for the 12 billion also. So since search is a core functionality, because the user is going to come on the website first, and he's going to make the search. That's the basically default behavior. So all the records, whatever we have, must be indexed in Solr. And now whenever we are going to make a query, the response should be coming from Solr, like I explained, and we need to do a lookup in database. So the overall issue now comes is, like in our dashboard, we have around 24 widgets, and for each widget, we make a call to backend using JavaScript, that is jQuery. So it's like we have 24 widgets, and each widgets make a call. So whenever a single user is going to make a search, we are going to have 24 queries, and the whole response time, including whatever we do in the backend, including search or database lookup, whatever we do, all widgets should be, the response time for all widgets should be less than 1.5 seconds. And that's very critical for us, because if it is going to take more time, then user is not going to make another search, or he will be quitting the portal. So, but we have an advantage here. I mean, because we are getting data once in a month, so we can do a batch indexing. And since this data never changes, so we can use some advantage of caching. So we can apply some caching for that, and we can, whenever user is making a search, we can just retrieve it back from there. Now we maintain a 1 year data. So as of now, we have 1 year data. So basically, the policy is we have 1 year data, and whenever the next month comes, okay, we try to remove the first 12th month, and then we'll try to replace that. So I'll just go to next slides, then we can see more. Okay, so like how we do data import, let's do a deep dive into that. So Solr provides a data import handler, like that's very awesome. It has a lot of functionalities, it's quite good. But what we have observed when we tried with large volume, it's become pretty slow. So what we did, we wrote our own custom data importer. And this importer, what it does, it pulls the records. Is it not visible? Okay, it's visible. So it does pull the records from database, and then it inserts these all records to Solr server, and that is through asynchronously. Now, we can do this in a multiple ways. I mean, there can be multiple design approach, like how we want to pull the data from MySQL. So one approach could be, we will just select a star from this table, and we want to pull the records. But the problem is, like one table has 12 billion records, so we cannot just write, okay, select a star from this table and pull all the records, because that will be too slow. I mean, it will not be going to run in a day. We tried that, and it didn't train. So there is another functionality that database provides, that's something called limit. So MySQL provides, you can apply some kind of pagination. Okay, I want initially first 10 records, then I need another 10 records, something like this you can do. But with the limit function also, what it does, whenever you are making a call, it is going to make a search on database, and it is going to scan all the records. So whenever you are scanning all the records, your performance is going to be hampered. So like if you are having 1,000,000 records, and now you are getting 1,000,000 records, and then you are asking, okay, give me now 20 records, your performance is going to be drastically slow. So we came up with an idea. So why we cannot use some kind of a range query. So I'll give an example. Let's say we have a table here, and let's say that is around 10,000 documents. So what we do from our importer, we make a call to database, and we say, okay, give me first give me first 2,000 records. And how it is happen is like we have a query here. So like you can see, I'm saying select a star from this table where ID equal to 1 and ID is less than 2,000 or equal to 2,000. So the benefit is when we are doing it, the ID is basically a clustered index. So this ID is basically a clustered index. So because the ID is a primary key or it could be a unique key, it will is very fast and it returns response time in O1. Now, if we need another, right, we can say, okay, give me the records from 2001 to 4000 and keep going on. Now, to scale and to make as much as use possible of our CPU, basically we run 10 queries on the MySQL and return response very quickly. So in one shot, we make 10 queries to MySQL, we get the all data for that, and now in the importer, it's basically a buffer. So we created a batch of 10,000 documents, and once the 10,000 documents or either 5 minutes is elapsed, it will flush this data to Solr server, and that is asynchronously. So it doesn't need to wait for anything, it just flushes that. And now this Solr servers, whenever we are flushing it, we don't flush it only single Solr server. We basically by default we select like 4 servers and we flush the data to that. It's a depend on like how many number of shards we need to choose, and based on that it flush it. So whenever he is going to flush the data, it chooses some kind of round robin fashion. So it's like it put 10K to one Solr server, then another 10K to another server, and they keep changing. So it's a round robin. So that way we can achieve a distributed indexing. So we don't, I mean, in our case, we don't need to use any kind of router like Solr by default provides. That's called document router. We don't need that. We can directly flush to any Solr server, whichever we need, and we can take a use of that. So, but this approach has a 2 downside problem. First thing is you must need to have a primary key or unique key, and that could be slow. So in our case, it takes a day to just create the primary key in MySQL database. And second problem is if your IDs are not sequential, then you're going to make more number of calls to the database. So like I give an example. If my ID is 6,000 here and the record is 6,000, so it may be possible you have some certain records, those are deleted, or maybe you are adding something new. So in some cases, you are going to make a more number of calls, but for us it is acceptable because anyway there is no other approach that we can go ahead and quickly grasp the data. Now I'll move to how we do batch indexing. So as it was pretty obvious when we started, what we did, we index all the tables into a single big index, and this big index was like it was having on multiple Solr cores and having a multiple Solr process in a single box. Now the problem what will happen, let's say this is scale. So we did a commit on every 120 million records, or either in every 15 minutes. Okay, because we don't need to wait why the commit time it usually take. We also disable soft commit and updates. So by default, Solr do a soft commit for NRT. In our case, because we are doing a batch indexing, we don't need that, and we don't need also update. So we set it overwrite equal to false. And when we did the indexing, like it trained for 2 days, and it was continuously running. It pumped some 8 billion documents. So you can see like here. So it pumped basically 8 billion documents, but our target was 40 billion. And we thought, okay, this approach is not going to work out. So we need to stop it. Then we thought, okay, let's try to search this data. Let's see how it comes, how much time it takes. When we did the first search, after some cache warm up, it took the order of minutes. I mean, it goes for minutes. So, okay, then we did, okay, let's now try after the cache how it took. So still it took 160 millisecond, and 160 millisecond is like, it's a quite huge, it's not a small time. So we need to think, okay, definitely we need to choose some different architecture or some approach, that will be able to scale the search, because indexing is not just issue. We need to think about the search perspective also. So then we went with another approach. Another approach was we'll create a distributed index that will be for each table. So rather than clubbing all the tables into a single index, we'll create a distributed index for each table. But the question got pop up, okay, like if we are doing that, how many shards we should have for each table? because this shard is sitting on a Solr server or maybe Solr core. Now we did some mathematics for that. So mathematics is like, in our case, each table have some varying number of records from 50 million to 12 billion. So if we choose 100 million per shard is nothing but Solr core. So that means for 12 billion, we are going to have 120 shards. 120 shard is like, it will be very awfully slow. The other side, if we choose like bigger number, something like 500 million per shard, that means a table who has only 500 million records is going to have only single shard. If I am having a single shard, that means I cannot run a distributed search. It is going to have a high memory usage due to the index, and it will be having a high latency, because the distributed search help you to bring down the latency, because you are running the computing on multiple machines and you are just aggregating the results and return back faster. Oops. So then what we did, we thought a hybrid approach. We will try to determine the number of shards based on the max number of records in a table. So we did some benchmarking to find the best sweet spot, like, okay, for this particular number of documents, we should be having this number of shards. So we came up with this table. So like if the number of records is less than 100 million, then we should have only single shard. If it is like 100 to 300 million, we should have two number of shards. And if it's like less than a billion, we should have a 6. And if it is more than 5 billion, we should have a 16. What we did initially, we tried with 8. Okay. Then what happened? For each shard, we are having around 1.5 billion records. It was too slow. Then we tried with like, okay, rather than 16, take 32. So when we tried with 32, because we are hitting 32 cores, so in basically the search head is like, he has to make a distributed search and he has to collect the response. So it was too slow. So then we started, basically decreasing that number or try to increase that. So we came with this number. If we have 16 shard, it is going to work fine the most. Now in this approach, what we do the commit in the end. We don't do commit in the between. So because commit makes it too slow, because you have to do the all calculation, yet they have to apply a lot of changes on that, they have to create segments, everything they need to do. So we thought, why? Because we are doing a batch indexing, and if something fails, we can restart it back. So we do commit in the end once all things are done. So once commit is there, the data is there, and we have applied some more changes, like we choose merge factor. So there's something called merge factor in Solr or Lucene. So basically, based on that merge factor is like we increase the number. So in our case, whenever we do the indexing, we create a lot of segments. Like, so our segment goes around 2,500 segments if it is indexing very large. So because based on the number of segments, your performance is determined. So we do an optimization on that. So that I'm going to cover in next slides. So this indexing worked fine. I mean, the whole thing is worked fine. I mean, we was able to search, and search was also quite good. We was happy with the results. But after one day, suddenly we have out of memory error, and we was not sure like what went wrong. What we have seen, all Solr servers, what was running, everything got crashed. We restarted them, but they keep crashing every other day. So we took a heap dump, and then we tried to realize, okay, what's going wrong. So from heap dump, we realized it's due to a field cache, because a lot of data is, field cache internally maintain a hash map, and a lot of data is getting populated in hash map. Then we went to Solr mailing list, we tried to search a solution for that. And we came up, okay, doc value seems to be more promising for this problem. And we implemented doc values in our system. We did the re-indexing again. And then after that, we never had this issue again. So till in last 6 months, I mean, it's almost 8 months now. In 8 months, it's never went down again. So I'll show you like what is the basically doc values and how it works. So doc values is a disk-based field data. So as its name, like it's a disk-based. So whatever the field data that you have, you are basically writing to your disk, and whenever you need, you are going to read from there. So that way, the field cache is basically maintain everything in memory. So because if you have a memory issue, I mean, because we have large number of documents, so we need more memory. If we use more memory, then we are going to have a full GC issues. So we cannot go by that approach. So the doc value provides a solution where you can write your field values on disk or maybe in memory if you need that in a column style fashion. So because they are writing in a column oriented manner, they can achieve a better compression than field cache. That is one thing. And second thing is it's more like a replacement of field cache. Not exactly, but in some cases where you are doing a custom scoring or first setting or sorting. So that is very helpful. So actually in our case, we was doing a lot of sorting. That's the reason it was getting failed. So you can read these all links when they are quite good. So people who has written the doc values, they have published themselves. So you can have a look on that. Now I'll move to search. So what we do with search. So to scale the search, we do 3-level partitioning. So like one is the by month. So for each month we maintain one cluster. A cluster is having a multiple number of machines, and each machine is having a multiple number of Solr servers and Solr cores. And then we have a multiple replicas. So for like we maintain around 3 replicas. So total we have 4 Solr servers for each month. So the idea was like whenever we are doing the partitioning, so whenever we are going to get a request for a particular one, so our query pattern is people are going to search for the last month or before 2 months or 3 months, something like that. So we identify, okay, if we do a partitioning by month and country, so we can determine only which Solr server we need to hit. And most of cases they will be having table name also. So it's like we are going to hit only a small section of Solr servers rather than hitting all the Solr servers. So now, so as you see, like we get web requests. So like if one user make a request, we roughly get 24 requests. Basically, there are 24 widgets. So they all hit load balancer. Then it goes to web server farm. Now web server farm has running a PHP app, and in this PHP app, basically it generate more number of requests to search, and that's like 41 search requests. And when this 41 search request hits the app server, basically each one asks to the master cluster manager, okay, like give me the configuration, okay, which Solr server I need to hit. So once it determines, then it makes a request to search head. And we also have, basically we have two things, like we have dedicated search head for countries, and now they can be also shared. So it's like more weightage is given to a particular country search head compared to others. And if there is a contention, then it will move to others. So if they are died, then so we have roughly 6 search heads, and based on this 6 search heads, the request will be diverted to multiple Solr servers. Now coming back to cluster manager. So like I was telling, for each month we have one cluster manager. So basically we have 2. So one is inactive, another is passive, and they keep replicating the data in the real time. So like we use Zookeeper Watcher. So whenever there is any changes, or if basically they keep pinging the machines, or they can keep running some queries. So if they determine if that particular node is down, then basically it will automatically cut those machines from the mapping. And whenever there is any change, master cluster manager also getting notified. So basically master cluster manager is the guy who keep talking to these multiple cluster managers and get the data. Now we have one more interesting thing, like we run, I was talking like we run optimization. So we run optimization around 200 Solr cores. So for each month we have around 200 Solr cores. And when we try to run optimization on that, it takes a huge time. It takes almost 3 days. So we came up with, and there are some other cores, those having an index size of around 70 gig. So those having like 2500 plus segments. So when you are going to run, optimization of 2500 segment, it takes a huge time. So it has 2 issues. One thing is we cannot run optimization in parallel in a single machine because it's heavily dependent on disk and I/O. That is one thing. And second thing is, if you try to optimize a large segment like from 2500 to 20 or 25, it takes a huge time. So it can also take a 3x of index size. So we came up with, again, a hybrid approach. Whenever we are going to do, so in a single box, if there are multiple Solr cores, we are going to run only on 3 cores optimization at a time. And it's like whenever we are going to do parallel, so it will be running on 3 on one machine and another 3 on another machine. And now another thing is, from the 2500 segments, how we should bring to 25. So we came out, rather than bringing in a one shot, we will do it iteratively. So from 2500 it will come to 2200, from 2200 it will come to 1800, something like this. So in this, what we do, whenever the number of segments we reduce by 90% of that, that's like 0.9. So like from 2200 it will become 1800, and in one shot we'll reduce by only that number. and it keeps changing. So like we have multiple solar cores, those are having 2500 segment. So in one shot, we reduce from 2500 to 2200, another is like from 2500 to 2200, and third one is like from 2200 to 1800. And this keeps changing. So it's basically a round robin fashion. We keep doing optimization. So now optimization, it takes around 8 hours to run it, and it's run continuously, and it's like hugely parallelized. So it takes a quite a time. So whenever you are doing optimization, you need to have, okay, if I'm doing optimization, it's mainly bound to your disk and I/O. So you need to, whatever the disk I/O is happening and whatever the CPU it is consumption is happening. So roughly in our data, like for a month, we have around 4.6 terabyte, and we need to do the optimization for that. So we have observed like for roughly 1 GB data, it takes around 44 to 46 seconds to do the optimization. So that's the reason we thought, okay, we'll do in parallel on more machines, and so it will be done quickly. Now, once the optimization is done, and like we do the cache warm up after that. So as you can see, like we have max number of segments, that is 25, and then like we have around 346 million records. And as you can see here, so we have physical memories like 384 gig, and that's almost occupied. So the data, whatever the index data, whenever we run a cache warm up, everything is cached in the disk cache. So whenever we are going to make a query, it will basically going to hit the disk cache because it will be memory mapped. And if the data is not there, then it is going to hit the disk. So most of the time, the queries are getting satisfied from the disk cache, and we are able to get good throughput. Now coming back to we also use external caching. So basically, what is happening, in distributed search, let's say you make some repeated query requests. So your data is sitting in a Solr caches. Now whatever the Solr servers are there returning a response, you are just collecting it back and returning to your client. Now basically it has issues, like you are basically increasing the search latency, and second thing is you are lowering your throughput. So what we do for some queries, whichever is like most frequently accessed, we cache them in a Redis. So we have a Redis cluster, and which is like all complex aggregation queries result. Basically, they get pushed to Redis, and whenever we are going to make a repeated request, we retrieve it from the Redis itself. And this Redis is sitting in an app layer, so we don't need to touch to neither search head, neither Solr server. We don't need to do anything for that. So now, why we have chosen Redis? So basically, it's an advanced in-memory key value store. It's very, very fast. Your response time will be order of 5 to 10 milliseconds. And it also provides a lot of behavior. It provides basically caching behavior. And there are some advanced data structures. So like, you can have hashes, list, sat, sorted sats, then bitmaps. If you need more information, you can go to this website, redis.io, and check that. Now, from the hardware side, basically we use bare metal. We use dedicated servers for Solr. So basically that they are for two reasons. One is the performance gain, because we tried with virtual servers and our performance dropped by 18 to 20%. That is one thing. And second thing is what we are observed, like if we are having a dedicated server from some hosting company, we get more better value of computing power versus the dollar we spend. So rather than having a virtual servers, we take a dedicated server and we run multiple Solr servers on that. So basically, they all are like sharing the same CPU. They are sharing the same CPU and a disk I/O, but there are multiple Solr servers. Now, like as you can see from the hardware, like we have 2.6 gigahertz and 32 core, and we like 384 gig RAM. So basically the purpose is because we have 4.6 terabyte, and we want to cache it as much as possible, because once we are able to cache it, we can return it more faster. So that's why we try to use a bigger RAM. Then we also tried basically comparison with like SSD versus SAS 15K. So what we have observed when we are running it SSD, our indexing rate at peak was like from MySQL to Solr, the complete flow, it was around 330,000 documents per second, and like each document was around 100 to 125 bytes. When we moved to SAS 15K, it dropped like 45%. It came to 182K documents per second. But still, we are using SAS 15K because it's quite cheap. The difference is almost half of that, and but we have plans to move to SSD in near future. But still, like as of now, we are running with SAS 15K. Now, coming to the conclusion, so basically what is the key takeaways from that? So you need to understand your characteristics of data. I mean, you need to seek like what basically analysis you are doing, and is there a way how you can partition it well. So basically, you need to take such kind of heuristic like from your production, like what is your query pattern and how people are going to make search. Can you take an advantage of this? And then basically you should take an advantage of cache. So Solar provides a lot of cache to spend some time on that. I mean, if you tune it that well, then you are going to get around 10 to 50 times faster performance. So like in our case, we do a lot of caching and we return response from there. So the computation is less, and since computation is less, we are going to get better throughput. Now we always, I mean, you should try to use always like filter query wherever it is possible, because filter query is like it's not related to a single query. Okay, it's not related to query result. So basically, if you are having multiple queries and applying some filter, they can be get satisfied by filter cache, and it will be it will improve your search latency. Now main thing is, and that's a GC. So whenever you are running a GC, like you give a heap size that is proportional to your machine RAM. So if you're running a like machine with 8 gig, give only 2 gig to Solar. I mean, don't give like 7 gig or 6 gig to Solar. Give only a small number that is required. So leave enough RAM for kernel, because Solar is highly optimized whenever you are putting data to as a memory mapped. So basically, you will be having a small amount of data in your heap, and you will be having more amount of data into a disk cache. So generally, in my experience, like 4 gig to like 8 gig is quite good heap allocation. But in this particular project, we use 12 gig to 16 gig because we have like a lot of Solar cores and we have a huge indexes, so we cannot run with 4 gig. And the important thing is, whenever you're running, just keep an eye on garbage collector, because I mean, mostly time what is happening, mostly time a full GC would be happening, and that is like, okay, stop the whole situation. And when it happens, like you are going to spend around 3 to 4 seconds easily with full GC. Now another aspect is from the tuning perspective. I mean, we don't use soft commit because we don't need any NRT behavior at the moment, because we are doing a batch indexing. So especially like batch loading, if you don't use that. It doesn't make sense, because I mean, soft commit uses a lot of disk IO. It's like a hash map, and you are writing to disk, and each call, each document that you would getting written to disk. So it's making things very slow. Another thing is, from the Solar side, there are a lot of configuration like RAM buffer size, merge factor, then HTTP shared handler configuration. So try to tune them, try to optimize that. Like HTTP shared handler provides a configuration, okay, you can have these number of threads, like it's by default 200 threads. So we have changed that number, we tried with a lot. And then like it provides like connection timeout and other things like thread timeout. So that is one thing. And for Redis, if you are planning to use the hashes in the Redis, basically that will bring down your memory usage. And because hashes, I mean, basically Redis maintain everything in memory, and it's just like keep writing to a disk as a background job. But whatever that amount of data, everything is in memory. So it makes more sense to having a small memory footprint. If you want to read, you can. I mean, basically I published this blog before like 5-6 months. So if you want, you can read more on here. Yeah, that's it. I mean, if you guys have any questions, maybe I can answer. Yeah, sure.
For garbage collection, how often does it happen now, and how does it affect performance?
Yes, garbage collection basically impact a lot of performance. So it's like basically there are two algorithms. One is called as a CMS, another is parallel GC, old parallel GC. So whichever you're using, it's based on that your performance is getting affected. So if you are using a CMS, like it will be keep running in background and it will be stealing your CPU cycles. If you are using a parallel old GC, it's like a stop the whole situation. So whenever there is a need for clearing memory, only it will happen. And whenever it will happen, it is going to take at least 3 to 4 seconds. So some cases it make a bad user experience, because whenever user is making a search, right, and let's say if GC is happening, you are going to spend 3 to 4 seconds easily for that, and user has to wait. So what we do whenever we do indexing, we use basically parallel old GC, and whenever we are going to bring it to search servers, we use CMS. So we basically use hybrid approach for that. Yeah.
I couldn't tell what kind of queries you're running, or whether you're using faceting to the widgets that you explain.
Yes.
I mean, it seems like you've created a lot of problems in terms of the index.
Yes.
If you get 1% sample of the data in the SQL,
Yeah, actually we can go to NoSQL, that's not an issue. But the major use case for us is a search. So if we put into NoSQL, right, even though MongoDB or Couchbase or anyone, someday we need to bring the search. So what will happen, things will become more complex if we use a NoSQL, because generally the approach is, okay, you put some IDs into Solr and then you are going to make a call to your NoSQL database. So it's like you are going to take 2 round trip. So what we are doing in here, we are using Solr as a search solution come NoSQL both. The main thing that you are telling is like faceting. So even though if we tried with that, I mean, we put even the 1 billion documents in MongoDB, it's become too slow. So I mean, basically we tried with the bigger machines, we did everything and it was too slow. So then we thought, okay, rather than putting extra hope, why not work with Solr itself. So as of now, the question from the faceting side, faceting is slow, that's true. So there are some changes from 4.6, it's become a distributed now, you can run it parallelly. So basically now it will take less time. So what we do, we run some background jobs. So based on the query patterns, what user is searching, we keep running in background and keep populating faceting for them. So it's, in short, it's not the real time faceting we are doing. It's like happening in background. User doesn't know. So whenever user is going to make a search, basically he see, okay, yeah, I'm getting data quick because the data is getting served from the caches. It's not the real time at the moment we are doing the faceting. Because if you do a faceting on billion records, it's going too slow. So when we tried with 12 billion, it was like too slow. So we keep running in the background for all like most frequent queries, and that's the way we work. But yeah, your question is right, it's pretty slow.
Well, I just think for example, it might work just as well for you. Do you need all 40 billion every month? Do you just have 40 million?
40 million unique values?
Well, just something from what you started with.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to manage.
Yeah, so basically, how it happens, like most of time we have a unique values that's less, okay? So it's like more number of, when you are doing a faceting, because you are doing a grouping, right? So we have less unique values, so it makes sense for us. But if you have a more number of unique values, faceting is very, very slow. That's true. Yeah. Any more questions? No? Okay, that's it. Thank you, guys.